Ooh, sound checking. Singing the Natalie Winners one.
The attitude is, I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or, I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, the land and water that I own, or my employees.
Into the deadly pursuit crash that killed a San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputy could appear in court today. 22-year-old Ryan Dwayne Turner was arrested Monday on vehicular manslaughter and other charges. Deputy Hector Cuevas was in pursuit of Turner that morning when Cuevas crashed into a bystander's car and slammed into a light pole. The force was so strong the patrol car split in two and Cuevas died at the scene.
President the last 4 years? That's an enormous question.
Tony Blinken. I think it's really obvious that his statement dropping out on Twitter was issued before he knew.
The note explaining the pardons, who wrote that?
So it's just a coup.
And then what happened when Biden suddenly came out and made Kamala the nominee?
The sabotage of Nord Stream. It will destroy NATO.
COVID, there are documents that we know exist that we're going to get now. FBI communications between the Bureau and a lot of these scientists, and it's going to tell a crazy story.
Next.
On our children, then critical gender theory, then biological men and women's sports, locker rooms, they all get to be there. Then, oh, wait, your son wants to become a daughter. We'll hide that from you because we have parental secrecy policies. And now you want us to register our child with the school, which may include requiring parents to turn over what they're teaching. Well, what if you're a parent who says, I'm teaching creation to my child and not evolution? What if you're a parent who's going to teach life begins at conception and a heartbeat begins at 5 weeks? What's going to happen to you?
That has been very effective. There's a lot of, if you're not willing.
More fun on the audio going there. Here's Bill Asaley back, I think. Of that, oh, we lost Bill. Let me see if I can get...
Christopher Steele probably wanted to go down in history as someone... Well, I know Christopher...
Let's see if we can get the technical stuff working. Maybe there was
Christopher Steele probably wanted to go down in history as someone that colluded with the Clinton campaign to take down President Donald J. Trump. But I really think that you represent probably the ultimate grifter in the American political space. For you to even come on here, obviously you're trying to sabotage what President Trump is doing when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. But to sit here, what is it, nearly a decade after you tried to smear President Trump as a Russian asset, to then say, well, I think he's a Russian asset, but even though I'm really good at my job and create all these intelligence reports, it's just sort of a feeling that I have. I'm sorry, what stones do you even have left to turn over to try to corroborate your claim that President Trump is a Russian asset? You what? Weaponized FISA courts, surveillance, warrants, not just domestic spy agencies, international spy agencies too, the entire DNC apparatus, a bunch of political operatives and registered foreign agents here in the United States. The American people would really appreciate it if you would stop injecting your efforts to curtail and totally tank the America First movement by smearing anyone who doesn't want to get involved in forever wars or continue the needless and ceaseless dying of in Ukraine and in Russia, just so you can sit there from your nice perch and just continue to defend the globalist world order by continuing to fan the flames of conflict in Russia and Ukraine. And you know what? The same people that you ally.
There's FFG Live Guitar Music. It comes in every Monday through Friday, live at almost 5. NEWSWIRE and Evil FB Network, Rumble, X, even YouTube for a bit, till they kick us back off on that. I think Natalie Winters was pissed. Boy, was she pissed at the deep state guy. Hopefully we'll get into that. We'll have Susan Shelley on at 5:30, as we usually do on a Wednesday when we join the Mighty Met KMET. And my hair is getting too long. It's starting to get in my eyes, which tees me off. That gets me to the barber quicker than anything. Lots of stuff to go on the mantle today. Tampon Timmy Walls is back with Gulag Gavin Newsom and the Tampon Timmy's like nobody else. Man, that guy is. He thinks he can whip everybody's ass on top of all the other outrageous, outlandish, ridiculous claims only Tampon Timmy could make. Ashley Zavala cornered Gulag Gavin Newsom at the Capitol while he was strolling through. Of that, the aftermath of kicking the the broadcast journalists outside while the print stays in. Well, that was, I think, what the Senate's idea was, well, if Newsom or somebody comes in, Zavala will be chasing after them and not bothering us. We'll see how that works out for all of them. Because, again, there's another one I wouldn't want to piss off. That would be Ashley Zavala. Man, both of them, Natalie Winters and Ashley Zavala, probably two of the most tenacious reporters, one at Capitol Hill and the District of Criminals is in Miss Winters, and Miss Zavala up at the Scoundrels of Sacramento. Much, much more $1 billion. They're done. They're done in Los Angeles. The chief business official came out and said, we're $1 billion short in the budget in the city of Los Angeles. No games, no more money in the tank, in the account, anywhere. We're done. And it's almost apropos, I should say, this is going to go on in a lot of places, all across the board. Because they've been ripping us off too long, like the intro was on Chuck E. Schumer. Evil business owners that just all they think about is themselves and they hate government. Even The View, of all places, the 5 cackling hens. We're playing the music saying, dude, get off the freaking air before you make matters even worse for us. So they got a big problem. And it couldn't happen to nicer folk, as they say. But when you're getting jerked from The View, you know you've sunk to a low that almost nobody could dig a hole out of. That's why the Democrats are clamoring for a leader. You got Chuck E. Schumer, the fossil, at the Senate. Got Hakeem Jeffries, dumber than a box of rocks. And I'm probably disparaging rocks as we speak. Because it cannot hardly ever get any worse than this. Let's replay some of the worst 33 seconds in probably a political person's stupidity. In the top 3, Chuck E. Schumer on this. Here he is with 5 cackling hens on The View. Well,
money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, my the land and water that I own, or my employees? They hate government. Government's a barrier to people, a barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united.
Okay.
good. Notice how they were playing the music there of that. And they're trying, I think when they come back, they didn't even hardly say anything about it. Again, that was probably 33 seconds of, well, that should be test mark, benchmark, how to ruin a political career. Not that Chucky Schumer hasn't done a hell of a job of it anyway. But to disparage business owners or entrepreneurs, guy with a hot dog stand, barely making it over a lot of the stupid policies Chucky Schumer has rolled out over the years. Holy bleeping cow. The arrogance, I don't know. There's just not real words to describe. And Chucky isn't the only one. I mean, this is how the Democrats could sit. Well, DJ Daniel, the 13-year-old, got his Secret Service badge, ID, on Trump's joint address at the House and Senate. That's how they could sit heartless in that, not even acknowledging that. They are, I don't even know, well, they're probably evil. They're evil because they're heartless. No conscience, however you want to say it. They're to me, that's subhuman. To berate the people that provide the employment, they provide all the employment. The taxes either got to come from, the money's got to come from either the business owners or the people they employ. If there's not that, there's no government employees. Zero. No schools, no fire trucks, no police department, no Congress, no Department of Education, no insurance commissioner, nothing. So these yin-yangs that sit here like Chucky, berating the people that are making this country work, for them telling the truth, and they have every reason to hate government. We just had an example of that. And I don't know, I haven't been able to check at it to confirm it, so maybe we'll do it tomorrow. But as I was at the Marina Valley Council meeting last night, developers got a fine project, the district, saying, I've been working for 5 years on this project. I don't know what's going on. I'm not getting no communication. Asked for a continuance on something was coming up and was denied. That was the district project. A very fine project. So it goes from Moreno Valley to the District of Criminals. Nobody is exclusive in that. But it's that attitude. You go to the school board meetings, and the board and the staff, the executives of the superintendents and stuff, they have this arrogant attitude, just like Chucky Schumer. Go to your county board of supervisors, go to your city council meeting, go up to Sacramento and try to talk to a lot of these guys and gals, except if they're like the Saleys, the Castillos, Kate Sanchez, Greg Wallace, few of them. And you know what the commonality is this? They're all on the center right. You hardly anymore find anybody on the Democratic Party that will sit down and have an honest conversation with you anymore. Or just say, hey, this is the way it is. And you're seeing the aftermath of it. You're seeing the school districts implode. Not only are they not teaching your kids, we had the Kayleigh McEnerney deal of Corey DeLangelis, Sonia Shaw's been breaking it. They're trying to bust homeschools. They're trying to bust that because they say, well, you can't dismantle the Department of Education because, well, where are they going to go? Because they've been going there in a lot of cases. The declining enrollment is not necessary. Declining enrollment is not population decrease. It's people either moving their kids to other districts or into private homeschooling. That's the bulk of it. But they won't tell you that. It's beyond sinister that we have to deal with this stuff. They did file charges today for the driver they were pursuing in that Victorville high-speed pursuit, where a Victorville deputy lost his life on that in a very gruesome crash on that. Deputy Hector Cuevas Jr., who will not go home to see his family and loved ones or do his job as he had done for 6 years as a deputy sheriff. Multiple charges. That is going to be a continuing story that will go on, and we will cover it of that till hopefully this guy gets the death penalty. Might not be able to get it on premeditated murder, but life imprisonment, because it's got to be murder too, I would think. But I'm no legal guy, so. But I hope he never sees daylight again. Matt Taibbi was on with Tucker Carlson, and they were going on about the secrets that we may be getting exposed to, the JFK files of that. Nothing much. And even that one about John F. Kennedy Jr. calling Biden a traitor, I thought that came out a long time ago. I could be mistaken. I thought that communication came out a while ago. Maybe not. I mean, as part of that. And we'll have the coincidences. It's up on NEWSWIRE if you want to check it out. Here's Matt Taibbi with Tucker Carlson. And hopefully if Trump holds to his promises like he did with the JFK files, hopefully the Epstein files will come out. I think there may be more potential stuff in the Epstein files, at least it's relevant, because they have less time to cull them like they did the JFK files. But here we go.
Executive order is the fuck around and find out order, also known as the FAFO. This order is for everyone who fuck.
As we enter an age of disclosure, what do you want to know?
Who was president the last 4 years? That's an enormous question.
Tony Blinken. I think it's really obvious that his statement dropping out on Twitter was issued before he knew.
The note explaining the pardons, who wrote that?
So it's just a coup.
And then what happened when Biden's...
So according to Taibbi and Tucker, Biden didn't even know he dropped out of the race. And I kind of subscribe to that because I think his boom coming out with that Kamala endorsement, so she should get it. Because Nancy was looking to put Gulag Gavin in the slot. That's why he was doing all that stuff. Here we go.
Executive order is the
Why does
fuck
he keep
around.
doing that?
As we enter an age of disclosure, what do you want to know?
Who was president the last 4 years? That's an enormous question.
Tony Blinken. I think it's really obvious that his statement dropping out on Twitter was issued before he knew.
The note explaining the pardons, who wrote that?
So it's just a coup.
And then what happened when Biden suddenly came out and made Kamala the nominee?
The sabotage of Nord Stream, it will destroy NATO.
COVID, there are documents that we know exist that we're going to get now. FBI communications between the Bureau and a lot of these scientists, and it's going to tell a crazy story.
Next.
Russiagate.
Russiagate, the laptop. We were told we were crazy. Rudy's lying. No such thing, Russia collusion. That's not Hunter Biden's laptop. COVID, the whole COVID con that we had been subjected to. I think we're in for the big reveal. And not whether it's a boy or girl. Or waiting for the bigger reveal that says, oh, yeah, what's the its or the 27 million different types of sexes people think they can come up with. It's all very interesting how it goes.
Executive order is the...
As we enter an age of disclosure, what do you want to know?
Who was president the last 4 years? That's an enormous question.
Tony Blinken. I think it's really obvious that his statement...
Who was president? Well, again, and I think Trump's just screwing with him, like that deal avoiding Biden's pardon, saying he signed it by auto pen. I think that's his way of saying, man, you were all conned. You were all conned big time. And it's really sad sometimes that we had to we're digging ourselves into these holes. Like the city of Los Angeles, we're $1 billion short. No, nothing. We got no bullets here in the gun. We got no money. This is why they didn't hire, and this is why they didn't hire the mechanics to do the fire trucks in LA. This is part of the stuff. Well, we'll just start cutting unfilled positions. Well, they didn't hire new mechanics in the last budget cycle. So yeah, when the fire comes, where's the fire trucks at? Well, they're all broke down, sitting in the city garage over there because there's nobody over there to fix them. Bill Asaley, or Inland Empire Assemblyman, one of the best, shining light, says, are you willing to fight? Because we need fighters in politics, in our communities, in our towns, going to fighting for our kids' future, education, and everything else. Here's Asaley. We thought.
People that agree with us that if you're not willing to do the right thing, get out of the way. There's a lot of people that agree with us that are afraid to speak, and that's what the left does. They weaponize politics and activism to scare people into submission, and that has been very effective. There's a lot of conservative schools without a notification policy, and ask why aren't you doing it? They're like, we don't want to be sued.
Yes.
Okay, well, get out of the way. If you're afraid, then don't be elected. You know, it drives me crazy with politicians up here too. They're like, I don't want to get kicked off the committee. If you're not willing to do the right thing, get out of the way.
What are you saying? Hey, you got to at least be as tough as the left, the Democrats. You got to be as tough as AOC or Chuck Schumer. You can't pussyfoot around everything. Of course the center left will do anything. As we've seen with the JFK deal, they will kill a freaking president. CIA, establishment, however you want to say it. They shot at Trump twice, Reagan, Ford. You gotta be, I don't say you got it, if you want a future. If you want to honor the 1.5 million that have fought, bled, and died to give you the greatest country in the world, history of the world. You can't sacrifice a slight amount of pain compared to what they did. He's right. We need fighters. We need people that are willing to call it out, to stand in the breach, to put it all on the line. Because if you don't, you're going to get rolled. Trump cannot do it all by himself. He's got fighters in there with him. Tulsi Gabbard, Stephen Miller, Robert Kennedy Jr., Tom Homan. They don't take no crap. J.D. Vance. They don't back up. No, they go full steam ahead. And they're going full steam ahead with what's right. That's what all this, we're fine. We'll go judge shopping. That's what their next tactic. We'll go judge shopping and try and stop everything Trump's doing. Well, they do that everywhere. They do it in your local town. They will use whatever tactic it takes. And you got it, a lot of people, and I'm talking to you mainly in the Inland Empire, which I know a lot of you folks and go to a lot of your meetings, and we, see at some of you, very few, at the actual meetings. You got the legend Sandy R., Keith Nelson, Jason Hunter, Team Palomares, Fred Banuelos. There's a few, and I'm sure I'm missing, but I mean, you can almost count on one hand the guys Brad Anderson from down the desert, Petraelas, who came up from Temecula, Greg Langworthy and his wife, and Nate Recker, probably messing his name up, that are there. But we're very few. Very few fighters left. Joanne Steffen. Very few fighters left that will actually go down there and stand and say, hey, like Asali's talking about, you want to get people elected, you want to move it forward, you don't want vagrants pooping and pissing in front of your house or business or whatever, or you're asking you for this or intimidating you going into your shopping center or whatever, then you better stand and fight. Just like Natalie Winters. She's on Pierce Morgan. She's from Santa Monica, like Stephen Miller. It's back there in the District of Criminals. I don't know how they stand it. But to each his own. Everybody's got their own likes and dislikes. I would go absolutely insane living in a place like that. But anyway, let's finish up with the Natalie Winters. She's destroying the deep state. What is she, 21, 22, 23 years old? Not backing down. She has her whole future in front of her, and she's willing to put it on the line. Some of you others, what's your excuse? Here's the great Natalie Winters.
Yourself with here in the United States. You think you're so good at gathering intelligence? Last time I checked, it was the 51 intel agency officers, spies, who said that the Hunter Biden hard drive, which I've reported on firsthand, it's legitimate. You want to talk about president's sons who are involved in businesses with foreign countries? Well, I'd like to introduce you to Hunter Biden, right? When those 51 people that I'm sure that you know all too well, you were probably likely involved with the drafting of that letter, said that that was Russian disinformation. Well, it turned out that that was true, and shame on you for the last decade trying to inject the idea that smearing President Trump as a Russian agent or a Russian asset is somehow going to tank the MAGA movement. It's about putting America first, and the fact that you can still sit here and you have no actual evidence beside one random Russian meeting, and oh, we need to just continue to get more evidence. You're a complete political hack and grifter, and I wish the American political scene didn't have your voice in it.
I just want to show that picture. Look at those five. If you're in the retarded half of the population, you're sitting there hoping, when does this stop? Hoping that it stops before I get killed. Because we've all been in that position with the smarter half of the population. But she was giving it to all these guys and this intelligence guy who's been part of, in my opinion, part of the deep state screwing us around. and making our lives miserable, stealing our wealth and everything else. Here we go.
All right. Well, Christopher Steele, you're about to leave us because you're only here for this part of the panel. But your response finally to that.
My response is that I'm a professional intelligence officer and an expert on that part of the world. I'm not a politician.
Was the Hunter Biden hard drive Russian disinformation then, if you're such an expert?
Let him finish. Let him finish. So I've been a loyal and close ally of the United States for probably most of the last 40 years. I've worked extremely closely with officials working for administrations, both Republican and Democrat. I have a very strong US client base for which I've worked and produced information over many years, none of whom have ever made any such allegation against me. And it's palpable nonsense to claim that I'm in hoc with politicians.
I'm so glad the Clinton campaign didn't say that about you.
Well, I never worked for the Clinton campaign. I never had any contact with the Clinton campaign. That's the reality of it.
Oh, you're a subcontractor.
I think Fusion GPS would beg to differ.
I produced a report for a partner firm in Washington, and the results of that report made me, as an ally of the United States, as I would have expected an American counterpart to do, to report back in what I had found to the contacts I had in the FBI at the time.
Okay.
That was the right thing to do.
Notice the double talking. And as Natalie pointed out, he's trying to do this. Well, you know, you were working for the agency. Why don't you ask the question? Why did, and if you thought, even if that was, I don't care what your job was, your job might have been, maybe they misread your report. Maybe they doctored it. Did you come out and say, no, this is not a Russian deal? That is Hunter Biden's laptop. 100%. Put that out before the American people before the 2020 election instead of trying to cover it up. These clowns are 1,000% unflipping believable. So now we're getting more information, statistics, documents on the now up to $12 billion. As it is my understanding, just in the last year we spent on people, they say undocumented. How many of them are here unlawfully and illegally? Remember Newsom last year? Oh, we're going to cover everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in the country legally, illegally. He said undocumented. This is why when Riverside County did the resolution, said we value all people regardless of immigration status. Well, this is the consequence of writing and pushing these policies. Now it's up to $6 billion they are asking for a loan because they don't have the cash to pay for it. Medi-Cal has charged them, which is largely where they go. Medi-Cal has charged them $12 billion. They have only paid $6 in the last year. $12 billion. They've only paid $6. They have no cash in the accounts or any of the accounts to pay it. Now, first it was, $3.5 million loan. Now it's almost another $3 million loan. It's over $6 million they're trying to borrow. Now, not only are we obligated to pay that, we're going to pay it with freaking interest. It's going to be $7.5, $8 million. Who knows? They might stretch this over 30 freaking years. You know, we might pay 10, 12, $15 billion for this. More. You know, this whole bill might be $20 billion for the year. 1 year. We could be, like we've had him on, we need to get him in again, Dr. Josh Umber. Let's get healthcare back to where, let's provide primary healthcare for this, and they'll go with this emergency room and da-da-da-da. Hey, we got to talk the policy off. You come into the emergency room, and if you're not a U.S. citizen or you're not in this country legally, as soon as you are stable, you are getting deported to your country. We are asking your immigration status when you come in the freaking door. And I'm not saying, you know, if somebody has an emergency or they're in a car crash, we're not going to say, oh, you know, we're not going to push them out in the street. But we're not going to use the that's how we stop using the emergency room as a primary care doctor. Because that's what the whole thing is. Well, you know, if we get them out of the emergency rooms, which has been total balderdash, go to any emergency room. Go to Riverside University Medical Center about 2 miles down the road, or any emergency. Go to the one in Beverly Hills. Go to Eisenhower down in the lower desert. The emergency rooms are packed. They're either vagrants or don't speak English. Probably 90+% of the packed emergency rooms. We've run the stories of the con jobs of all that come in. And the exploding costs and everything, it's stupid. Here's Ashley Zavala, who cornered Gavin Newsom in the hall of the Senate, I believe, in the scoundrel town of Sacramento. Here we go.
Situation right now. Is there anything you can share about just the undocumented healthcare expansion and how that's contributing to what's happening right now?
That's partial. We've seen in Pennsylvania, Colorado, Indiana, that don't have that expansion. They had even more sizable supplementals into their Medicaid system. This was something we previewed in the January budget, something that I previewed in separate conversations.
First off, Gabby, we don't give a flip in California about the problems of Indiana or Kansas or Vermont. That you who endorsed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris created this over 4 years. And then you put the policy in, oh, we're just going to cover them all. With the exploding healthcare costs, that was financial, stupid insanity. This is just one of 25 billion screw-ups you and practically every agency in California, because they're all pretty much flippin' stupid. They're not right or left. They're just criminal stupidity.
Conversations with other governors. It was highlighted actually in December at the Democratic Governors Association as an issue we were seeing all across the country. So all of that is exactly as we advertised in January. We're working through that. The good news, you've seen the revenues in the state we're collecting are above projections. The economy continues to be remarkably resilient.
If revenue's above in projections, then why are you having to borrow $6 billion frickin' dollars to finance illegals' health care? Again, it doesn't matter if your income is coming up. It doesn't matter what's happening in Fat Boy Pritzker's state. It doesn't, if your income is not meeting or exceeding your expenses, you are going to go broke, bankrupt. Things are not going to work. Services are going to be cut. Just look at LA. Where are they going to refund the fire department when they're $1 billion in the hole? They're going to have to fire half the other staff.
Is this the last of the loan requests from your administration for the year, do you think?
Yeah, and you've seen this in the past. We've done these letters, the legislature, we've done these supplementals in the past. As I said, I noted 4 states that I'm just more familiar with because those governors, we've had conversations, and they did some things.
I know you talked about the emergency room matter on your podcast about how this could actually save the state over time, or at least prevent that. Is that still?
Look, I mean, look, for decades, California and many other states, in fact, every state provides maternal care, regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay, and immigration status. Many states have advanced supports. California is among the most common.
We don't care what any other state is doing. Answer the frickin' question of why what we're doing in California. How did it get this freaking far out of control? Because there are way too many. Because Joe Biden, with your support, ding dong, who knows how many are in here? You don't even know. We don't. Nobody knows. We know it's a far greater number than the 10 or 7 or 10 or whatever they try to officially put out over the Biden administration. You can almost, that 7 million you can triple and probably be low.
Comprehensive. It was something we said we were going to do. It's something we committed to do with the legislature, and we've been doing it in a very transparent and inclusive process for years.
You can always tell when he's ducking line, BSing, because you hear the funky hand gestures and the whatever it is. Whenever you see him start doing the bob and weave and the goofy hand gestures, he's deflecting, he's lying, he's obfuscating, he's trying to F you is what he's trying to do.
Years, I believe in universal health care. Been consistent going back to my days as mayor. We're the first city in the country to advance it. And just a core principle. And absolutely, I believe in wellness. I believe in the principles of making California and making this country healthy. Not again.
Again, you just heard that. I've told you, all this stuff starts in 98.7% of it starts in California. That was 20 years ago. First, when he was mayor of San Francisco, 2004, 2005, come right in with the universal health care thing. Before Obamacare, before all this stuff, that's why they were test piloting. And then when they finally got it in, in 2010 or 9 with Obama, they had 4 or 5 years of figuring out, well, how can we F them over here and how can we screw them over there? And as Nancy said, well, you can read the bill after we pass it. This boy right there just admitted he was the precursor to Obamacare.
But focusing on wellness, not sick care, but health care. That's why we've been investing so much in farm to school, the works we're doing across the spectrum in that space, including going after, food dyes, and ironically getting mocked by the right a few years ago. Now the right is celebrating their leadership in the same space, which is interesting. You remember the Skittles ban. It never was. And I think that's a really good place to be. But we believe in those principles. We're advancing them. And it's something.
No chance of rolling back way behind any of the immigrant health care.
That's not on my docket. But that said, the realities are the realities. You have to balance budgets. We balance our budget. Revenue is holding up, but we don't just look at we don't look at 6-month goals or 1 year fiscal cycles. We look at multiple years. So we'll assess all that. We have the big tax collections coming up in April. That will be determinative. We have delayed tax collections because of the fires in Los Angeles. That's also has to be factored in. All these have to be considered. We work with the legislature. I'll submit a budget. We'll discuss the negotiations. We do every year. We go through this same dance. What the priorities are, their priorities are.
Told you when he's doing the dance, our priorities are we give a balanced budget. Then why all of a sudden a $6 billion hole just pops up out of the blue on the illegals healthcare thing? Just 1 year into it. Like I say, whenever you start seeing when he's talking normal, remember the hand gestures with Steve Bannon, the really goofy ones? The more you pin him down or the more he's trying to obfuscate, the more you get the wilder the hand gestures and the body movement, the crazy stuff.
Competing issues are, and we'll see where we land. But I don't see anything significant along the lines of what some have asserted. But I do see the need to make adjustments and changes broadly in the Medicaid system.
See, when I need to make adjustments, and you can see you can tell when he's trying to, the deception is on. The squirrely stuff starts coming out. Because that's a tactic to distract you from what he's actually saying. Because you're like, well, what the hell is this? Is he having a spaz attack, a seizure or something? No, he's doing that to distract you. But he can say, well, I said it over here. But, you looked like Bucko the Clown. Everybody was wondering what the hell was going on and not paying attention. Most people weren't paying attention to what you were saying.
We've been doing that through reforms like CALAC, which is a substantive structural reform in the system. The issues of expansion. We also have issues of cost burdens. Prop 35 placed a lot of cost burdens as it relates to rates. So all those things have to be factored in. The voters chose that path with Prop 35, and we were clear with strong opinions about it.
We were clear about what we were doing, and again, when you see the over-exaggerated, weird body movements and hand gestures, the dude is definitely 98.7% of the time trying to hide or trying to distract you from what he's really saying. And anybody will do that. Got about 5 minutes left. Let's get into a little bit of the tampon Timmy Walls. Here we go.
I know some of you know this on the iPhone. They've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, and take out, just telling you. Saying on my
Elon Musk, who just rescued 2 of our astronauts stranded 80,000 or whatever feet. And the car, they said, oh, it's going to save the world. Oh, Elon Musk and electric cars and all that. And now he's the worst thing in the world because he's actually seen the light.
But I think we're wrong not
to
understand more deeply and fully that people think we are deeply full of ourselves and we're talking down to people and past people. People want to be protected, they want to be respected, and they want to be connected. And I think this notion of respect is something that keeps coming back to me. People that just feel like we don't respect this
How
notion
do you fight it?
This notion of
I
tax.
could kick most of their ass. I do think that if they wanted to. I know I can outrun them, but I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we want to. Okay, we challenge you to a WWE fight here type of.
Newsom trying to rebuild his image, and he's trying to come. Oh well, I got respect for everybody, and yeah. And Tampon Timmy was going. And this is all about the Tesla and the economic thing and everything. Well, maybe we'll get into it more tomorrow. But I just wanted to preview a little bit on Tampon Timmy and the stuff. As usual, there's so much news going on. You can't keep track of everything. But it's almost amazing, except we've seen it time and time again. Like we said, the center or left, Musk was a god. Tesla this and did electric car, and he's going to save everything, and he's going to take over from those evil Ford and GM and Toyota and everything else. We'll all be driving electric cars, and in fact, it won't even cost you anything. They'll be giving you free cars. The electricity will be free. Everything will be perfect. Now they're burning his dealerships down. And he's really not hurting Musk. That's the dealers. Now, they probably are hurting his stock prices, but it'll come back. He's really, this whole burn the dealerships or the cars, they're hurting you and me, not me, but those who bought Teslas and the dealers that are providing the jobs and everything for that to sell them and fix them and do all that. That's who you're hurting. You're not going to destroy, I won't say never, but the odds of you destroying Musk
30 seconds.
Over this is almost impossible. With this whole Tesla, we're going to burn them all up. That's hurting you and your communities and everything else. That's what's criminal about this whole thing. It's absolutely 1000% evil of what they're doing. And it can't stop. We need to put a stop to that.
5 seconds. Here we go.
At its finest.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMEP, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's so live guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the Evil at B Network, Rumble, X. I think we're even on YouTube. On that, man, Chucky Schumer almost committing political suicide, condemning every business owner. From the dude pushing a popsicle cart to Elon Musk, though, even the five cackling hens on the 5 were like going, holy. Gavin Newsom and cannot answer the questions of why we're $6 billion. We got to get a loan. Just 1 year into we're giving free health care to all the illegal aliens. It's absolutely astonishing. Natalie Winters, the great reporter from SoCal, Santa Monica, like Stephen Miller, grilling the deep state dude on all this stuff with the JFK files coming out and everything else. They're trying to burn the Teslas to the ground. And again, what they're doing, like we said earlier, you're just hurting the dealers, the people that own the cars. Your insurance rates are going to go up. I can guarantee you every one of those Teslas is insured, and they ain't cheap, especially those trucks. What are they, about $100,000 a piece or so? They're ridiculous price of them. They're not cheap cars, guaranteed. But it's absolutely amazing. Bill Asaley says, hey, you got to get out there and fight. That's what they do. The center left does. Quit backing up. That's how they're defeating it. That's how we're in the situation we are, and we're not going to get out of it if we're not afraid to fight fire with fire, to use their tactics, the same ones, and I'm not saying go burn people's cars, but the same guerrilla warfare tactics they use politically. That's what we got to fight against. And it's imperative that we do. Because if we don't sit there and fight, like Asaley said, they will bury us. You cannot sit back or be afraid. It just doesn't work. If George Washington the crew said, which most people at that time back there in 1775 and 6, most people in the United States were ready to give up. It was like 3% that said, we're going for it. Give me liberty or give me death. And they went for it and created the greatest country in the history of the world. But as we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer from the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily, Facts More Important to Me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to iNewsWire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
So what do you think of Bill Asaley, our assemblyman out here in the IE, was at a conference and said, hey, basically, we got to stand up and fight just as hard or harder as the center left, or how we've got into that. I know you're down in LA. They just announced they're $1 billion, along with the healthcare, we got to get a $6 billion loan statewide for the illegal healthcare. Los Angeles is $1 billion in the hole. They don't have from what I heard, the chief financial officer said, we have no more, there's no more, we're not laying anybody off. We're not we're not rehiring of that. We got to start making some severe cuts. This is, especially in California, I think this is going to come this is coming across school boards, city councils, county governments, state government, everything. We're in for some very interesting times, I believe, Susan Shelley.
Oh, we sure are. You know, we saw this coming when President Biden was elected, and he immediately started with these bailouts. And he did it differently than President Trump was planning to do it. President Trump wanted to do bailouts directly to small businesses, to individuals who were impacted by the COVID pandemic. But the Biden administration wanted to give the money to the governments, to the school districts, to the counties. And that's what happened. And so all of their financial messing around was bailed out by the federal government, not once, I believe, but at least twice. And so they became very addicted to it. And what do you see when you look at their budget discussions now? They're all whining that they're off a fiscal cliff because there's no more federal COVID money. What in the world? You know, what kind of a flu was that it caused a $36 trillion deficit?
100%. And I think this is what Asaley's talking about. I mean, there's been, if you don't have if you don't toot your own horn, what's the use in having a horn? But, there's been a few people like me, and I mentioned them earlier in the show around here, that have been saying that across all the boards around here in the IE. But there's been very few of us that will go and say and challenge this stuff. And anybody that looked at it could see this was coming. As soon as the COVID money got shut off, all of these government agencies, especially in California, were going to be in big trouble. We're seeing it at our school boards now. They're saying in 2 years we're basically not going to have enough money to keep the doors open. We're going to have to do mass layoffs, cuts. They were in Moreno Valley. They're talking about shoving practically all the special ed kids back in a regular class. It's criminal. Go ahead.
When they have reduced attendance because people are leaving the district or kids never came back to class after the COVID pandemic, because they have fewer students, they don't get as much money, and then they whine to us that they have to either raise taxes or cut services. But why are the kids not showing up? Could it be because the schools are just not worth anybody's time? That would be my guess. They're not getting anything out of it, and they don't see the point. And even the school districts themselves didn't think it was important enough to fight to keep the schools open during the pandemic. So when Florida had its schools open, California's like, no, we don't have to open our schools. The kids will be fine. And now they won't come back in large numbers. Whose fault is that? This is just this cascade of terrible consequences from terrible policy choices in every respect, and so many victims of it.
It's absolutely stunning on that of that, and you described the problem, or the situation, I should say, exactly perfectly. But last night coming up, I get off at 6 o'clock, so went over to the city council, so they got out early. So I flipped. For those of you who don't know, Susan Shelley and her boss, El Presidente of HJTA, do a radio show on 790 from 6 to 7 after my show. Well, on a different station, but after my show, and that's how I caught you guys. This whole deal of Gavin Newsom giving out the 100, phones to the CEO of that. And what cracked me up was John Coppell's line on that on the burner phones. He said, well, the reason somebody would be giving out burner phones is usually it's the drug or cartel dealers handing them out to their agents coming out there. But it's really true. Why would you give them burner phones? Why wouldn't you just give them your cell phone number and say, hey, if you got an issue here, call me, Susan Shelley?
Well, that is a really good question, and it might relate to the fact that there's some loophole in the Public Records Act that allows the governor's burner phone conversations to be immune from production if someone asks what the official records are. It might be that. It might be for fundraising. It might just be a publicity stunt so he looks like he's being responsive to the businesses that are all leaving California. I want to keep you here. You just call me if you have a problem. I believe the governor of Texas did something similar. But really, to send these mysterious packages, these burner phones with his phone number pre-programmed into it and a little note, it's just, it just sounds like a stunt. It sounds silly.
Yes, it was absolutely, we have a bigger problem if the major leaders, runners, Elon Musk, dude from Chevron, and Phillips 66 that are closing refineries, and I think there's another one that's proposing closing. We're going to be down to single digits on those when we had over 60 of them, I think 10 or 15 years ago, oil and gas refineries, I should say. And the point of that they did not have access to the governor if they had an issue is even more troubling than him handing out the 100 burner phones saying, call me if you got a problem or you're planning on leaving, Susan Shelley.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the phone that keeps them from being in touch with the governor. It's the fact that the governor doesn't want to listen to them and doesn't care about the issues of energy affordability in California, only cares about this climate nonsense so he can have his picture taken at a Paris conference. And it's kind of offensive because the cost of living goes up and up and up in California, and the ability to earn a good salary goes down as the businesses leave. And so the combination of those two things, the high costs and the low ability to earn enough to live here, is crushing people in the middle class. So you've got all the people who are on 100% government support. They're okay. I mean, they're not great, but they're happy, apparently, because they're not the ones leaving. The ones leaving are the middle class who are not getting the government services for which they are paying so much money. The streets are not good. The schools are not good. Nothing is safe. We still have this terrible problem with homelessness, which is making the cities impassable for everyone else. This is a terrible situation, and it's all from bad government. And what are they doing about it? Well, they're running for higher office.
And I've heard this, it didn't matter. I mean, you go back, Jerry Brown, Arnie, Gray Davis, Duke Majian, all of them, Pete Wilson. No matter what political ones, you had it, and people of the press, business leaders, anybody, you could get access to those guys if if they didn't try to duck everything. Gavin Newsom has been the exception to the rule, I guess. Everybody almost says you try to get a hold of him, you ask for a meeting, it's always put off, it never happens, there's always an excuse. He's like, other than till this last two, whatever, this great awakening he's trying to do the last month or two of all that. But no, he's been consistent like that. And I say that's a lot. It's a lot of the reason why we're in these financial crises statewide and businesses are leaving, because he wasn't really doing the job he was elected to do, Susan Shelley.
You're so right. He's done a terrible job. I can't remember a time when California has been in worse shape on every front. It's very discouraging. And it's especially discouraging when you see how much can change with good leadership in Washington. It's especially frustrating that we don't have anything like that in California. There's so much that they could do to fix these problems, and they just won't do it.
It's absolutely enlightening. Switching gears here, but one of the main of the barrage of this, they say, breaking stories is like, that should be a cliche now, because we get like 27 of them every hour. But with this one that broke this week, first, it was, we were spending $8 million on healthcare in California for illegals. Mind you, this just started last year. This is only a year in. Oh, well, we need a $3.4 billion loan because we're short, da-da-da-da-da. Then it became, yesterday, $12 billion, and we need another almost $3 billion loan. We've only paid $6 billion of the bill from Medi-Cal. We owe them basically another $6 billion plus. Now we're going to put it on the credit card with interest. Your column this week, Medi-Cal under strain after state extends aid to illegal immigrant Susan Shelley.
This is really a scandal. You know, it started in 2015. California extended full scope Medi-Cal benefits, that's Medicaid in the rest of the country, to illegal immigrant children through age 18. And then a couple of years later, they extended it. Jerry Brown signed the first one. Gavin Newsom signed the rest. It was extended to young adults. Then it was extended to seniors. And then beginning last January 1st, 2024, it was extended to everybody in the middle, all the working age illegal immigrants who are low income or who have a reported low income because you can't verify a cash income. They qualify for full scope Medi-Cal. And what that means is they get the same safety net health insurance that low income Californians get, even if they just got here 15 minutes ago. They qualify for full health insurance entirely at the expense of the California taxpayer because the federal government will not reimburse any care for illegal immigrants because it violates federal law to provide benefits that are an inducement to come to this country illegally. So they will not reimburse. So it's all on the California taxpayers. Well, when they did this last extension, which I guess they voted for in 2023, everybody was warned that the federal government won't reimburse, but they thought only another 700,000 people would sign up, and it would only cost another $2 billion, bringing the total to $4 billion, nothing to worry about because California had all the money in the world. So they do this, and then California gets into a budget crunch, and Gavin Newsom says, well, I'm not touching that because health care is a fundamental right, okay? So then they budget for $6.5 billion for this program. And in a recent budget hearing, Carl DeMaio asked, well, what's it costing? And it wasn't $6, it wasn't $2, it wasn't $4, it wasn't $6, it was $9.5 billion. And we found out a few days later that the governor had already borrowed $3.5 billion from the general fund to go to the medical providers payment fund. This is all internal government accounting. They borrowed it from the general fund, $3.5 billion, and now another $2.8 billion just to get through June. And then what? Where's the money going to come from for this program? Because it's an entitlement, and there's no limit on how many people can enroll in it. And once they're enrolled in it, there's no limit on how much they can cost. So there's no way to know how much that's going to dent the California budget.
It's criminal. I mean, like you said, it started off with $2 billion. I'm going to have to revise my number because I always say whatever they tell you, just multiply it by 3, and that's that's the base you start with. And they keep blowing that number that I came with because that was usually pretty consistent of that. Now it's like, well, we're going to have to go to I don't know 6 or 9 or something of that with this coming on. But even this way, I say Gavin Newsom's not a stupid guy. He's actually fairly intelligent, probably pretty intelligent. He could not have known that with what the Biden and Harris administration, however the numbers, and then just multiply the number by 3. They've said 7 million have come out in the last 4 years. It's got to be over 21, easy. And you knew there was more out there that was going to. That number he gave was absolutely ludicrous. It was completely idiotic. He knew. They knew. The people that put that together knew that was a phony number they were doing. Now now it's a crisis, and guess what? They look at Susan Roy and everybody else in California, point that gun to us and say, hey, we're stealing money out of your wallet, Susan.
Yeah. No, it's true. And they absolutely knew how many people were coming over the border because it was on television that people were coming over the border in this continuous stream, tens of thousands every day, every week. Bill Melugin was covering it on Fox. It was all over Twitter. So this was 2023 when they voted for this last expansion, and they absolutely knew how much it was going to cost, but they didn't want to say. And they continue to say that it costs less than letting everyone go to the emergency room. That's nonsense because, among other things, when you give everybody Medi-Cal cards, it doesn't increase the number of doctors who will see Medi-Cal patients. And Medi-Cal underpays providers, so they won't see that many Medi-Cal patients because they can't stay in business doing that. Medi-Cal reimburses at less than the cost of providing the care. because, you know, there's a building and there's equipment and there's staff and payroll taxes, insurance premiums. It's skilled and trained people. This is not like freedom of speech where you're just restricting what the government can do. You're sort of requiring other people to provide a service that you're telling people is their right. It's not a right, it's a service, and somebody's got to pay for it, and California taxpayers are getting the bill.
We got to, because you mentioned it, we heard the argument, oh, you know, they're going to show up the emergency rooms and they're packed and all this. The emergency rooms are still packed. Right. That didn't solve, this whole thing didn't solve anything. We got to get to a point is if you, and we're not going to refute, you know, if you get in an accident or have a heart attack while you're in this country, we're not going to point at the parking lot and say we're not going to give you care. But if you're in this country illegally or unlawfully and you're in the hospital, as soon as you are stable, you should be on the flight out to wherever you should be, and let them take care of you. We're not on the hook for this whole thing like this, because we are going to bankrupt ourselves quicker than even I thought possible in California and the nation. If we, in Trump's, that's what their Doge, and even a guy like Elon Musk that was on the other side has figured this out, and why he switched and a lot of other people, Susan Shelley.
Absolutely. You know, resources are not unlimited, and this is all money that they're taking by force from other people, from taxpayers. And when they spend money from the budget on this item, that's money they don't have for other items. So whatever other items they think are important to fund, there's no money for it if they're spending all the money on health care for illegal immigrants. And this is very troubling, because people who come into California illegally thinking I can get whatever medical care I need, I can bring my whole family in, everybody can get whatever medical care they need, this begins to become a magnet which draws the sickest people into the state of California to take advantage of these services. Now, that's very generous, but we can't afford it, and it's being, as I said, forced on the taxpayers without their consent. And this is a very, in Illinois, they started a program that was similar, not for everybody, just people who are children or 42 years and older. And they had to pause the enrollment because it was so oversubscribed. Whatever they had projected, the numbers came in at more than double the cost, more than double the people, more than double everything. They had to pause the enrollment, but they kept providing the coverage to everyone who was already enrolled. And with all of that, they calculated that they have spent about $1.6 billion providing health benefits to illegal immigrants. It's such an adorable number, $1.6 billion. California spends that in an hour. This is crazy.
It is absolutely nuts of that. And Newsom mentioned that with the great reporter Ashley Zavala. He's talking about how, Illinois is doing it that. You know, that's Illinois' problem of whatever they got into. Why don't you answer the question about how we got into this problem in California? I think that's why Newsom's feeling the heat and changing his tune. Hopefully we'll be able to capitalize on that if we follow Asali's advice, and a lot more of us get in there and fight on that. Another way to fight is to join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Tell them why they should do that, Susan Shelley.
It's the best organization in California fighting for taxpayers, fighting for you in the courts, in the legislature, on the ballot. And you can be a member because it is a nonprofit, member-supported organization. It gets no government money, obviously. While it fights the government on all of these things, we're trying to stop your money from going out the window. So join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association at hjta.org. It's only $15 a year to support the organization. You get Taxing Times, our newspaper that's coming out in April, which is great, if I say so myself. And you'll enjoy getting all of the updates on what's going on with legislation and ballot measures in California.
You got it. Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks so much, Roy.
You got it. Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. Man, it's something else. It's the barrage of stuff coming on. Maybe we'll get into the JFK stuff. Well, hopefully we're gonna have. Hopefully we'll have Dr. Kelly on because she couldn't come on Wednesday. But I think, well, you can check on the iNewsWire site. But the biggest thing that came out of me with the JFK deal is the irony of what we just went through a couple years ago and what's happening, and even it pertains to the JFK assassination and whether the CIA. I don't think you're going to find any smoking guns in the documents or something, but it basically confirms what most people already knew based on where. And again, they were 60 some years ago, they were trying to sell us a fish story on that stuff. And I think that's what Trump is trying. Trump is saying, hey, here, you want transparency? You should have transparency. And if we don't tell the truth, we're not going nowhere. And I think that's one of the great things from Donald Trump. As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, and the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota in Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. iNewsWire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to iNewsWire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. That's it. If you want to buy American, go to PatriotSwitch.com. If you need a new Subaru or Toyota, go to Wintercliff Cummings. Great dealerships at the San Bernardino Auto Mall at the 10 and 215 of freeways. Don't forget I-10 Toyota down in the lower desert. What a day, just like everything else. Actually, Trump himself, at least if I missed it, I didn't see anything earth-shattering coming out with Donald J. We'll have to check that. If we do, we'll pick it up hopefully tomorrow. Again, we should have Dr. Kelly on tomorrow for all you Dr. Kelly fans rolling in on that to see. I got some new stuff. I got about 27 things already for her tomorrow on that. We'll get into all those and all the other news and maybe even give you 1 or 2 that we didn't. Maybe we'll get into more of the Tampon Timmy stuff either tomorrow or Friday with Newsom. That was some revealing stuff going on. It's always exciting, no matter what. Exciting times, good, bad, or indifferent. But again, I couldn't agree with Billy Assaley more. We got to fight. We got to get more in our army. We got to counteract this stuff because, this whole deal coming out with burning the Teslas can get out of hand real quick. Remember the George Floyd situation. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours. Why? You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
You got it.